It's Patrick Hutzel from IntensiveCareHotline.com, where we improve the lives for families of critically ill patients in intensive care so that you can make informed decisions, have peace of mind, real power, real control, and so that you can influence decision making fast, even if you're not a doctor or a nurse in intensive care. In the last blog, I talked about a testimonial from a reader and from a client who said, "Simply thank you. You helped saving my grandmother's life." You can check out last week's blog and the reader's and the client's testimonial by clicking on the link below this video. This week's blog I want to talk about one of my favorite topics. This week I want to talk about family meetings in intensive care, how to avoid the pitfalls. Before I get into today's topic, I want to share a quote with you that I wrote on today's topic, and the quote says, "Most families of critically ill patients in intensive care are oblivious to the power dynamics when it comes to family meetings with the intensive care team." Family meetings in intensive care tend to be highly emotionally charged meetings, and the intensive care team usually only calls a family meeting to deliver bad news. Most families of critically ill patients in intensive care don't see it coming. They are unaware of what to expect in a family meeting, and therefore they are usually negatively surprised and taken aback by the outcomes of such meetings. The truth of the matter is that family meetings in intensive care are the ultimate display of the perceived power and the perceived authority from the intensive care team, and if you and your family are unprepared, you will stand no chance in those meetings to make informed decisions, have peace of mind, control, power, and influence. The intensive care team, on the other hand, is hugely aware of the power dynamics in family meetings, and they know what to say, how to say it, when to say it, and they know what not to say. If you and your family are unprepared and don't know about the power dynamics in those meetings, if you don't know what questions to ask, and you don't know the importance of your positioning in those family meetings, you will most likely become a victim of the circumstances, and chances are very high that the intensive care team can get their mainly hidden agenda accomplished and get what they want. You and your family therefore need to be prepared as much as you can before those meetings, because chances are that you'll be so overwhelmed by the dynamics and the psychology during those meetings that there is a very high likelihood of you getting overwhelmed by your emotions. So let's get into today's topic into more detail. Family meetings in intensive care are one of my favorite topics, and I have seen so many and have participated in so many family meetings in intensive care with the intensive care team that I could write and talk about it for hours. Family meetings in intensive care are one of the biggest pitfalls for families of critically ill patients in intensive care. Family meetings in intensive care are literally very often life or death meetings without families of critically ill patients in intensive care knowing what's happening and what is at stake. It's bad enough that families of critically ill patients in intensive care can't really get prepared for any of the challenges that this situation brings along. It's even worse that nobody prepares them for those all crucial family meetings with the intensive care team. Here's the thing. Family meetings in intensive care are usually only held to deliver bad news, and yet families of critically ill patients in intensive care don't see it coming. Think about it for a minute. if your critically ill loved one is tracking well, the doctors and the nurses can give you an informal update at the bedside. It's that simple. There are no formalities necessary. It's no big deal. If, on the other hand, things are not going so great, if your critically ill loved one is not improving, intensive care team is wanting to make sure that they formally tell you what their plan of action is. Then, how do I know? I have seen it over and over again in more than 15 years intensive care nursing in 3 different countries, where I have literally worked with thousands of critically ill patients and their families, as well as when working with my clients here in one-on-one in my counseling and consulting service over the phone, Skype, or via my email counseling service. I certainly know that I have seen my fair share of the struggles that families in intensive care are going through. I have also worked as a nurse unit manager in intensive care for more than 5 years, and I've gotten enough insights into the world that is intensive care so that I can confidently say that I can and want to share with you all the insights that I have gathered over the many years. The fact of the matter is that if your critically ill loved one is in one of the following situations, they are either very unstable and in a very critical condition, or they may be in a life-threatening situation, or your loved one may not be waking up after an induced coma, or your loved one may be in intensive care for long-term treatments and long-term stays, including long-term ventilation, or your loved one is maybe having a severe or traumatic head or brain injury, or even worse, your loved one may be threatened with an NFR, not for resuscitation, or DNR, do not resuscitate order, or your loved one may be in the bad situation where the intensive care team suggests a withdrawal of treatment or a limitation of treatment as being quote-unquote in the best interest for your critically ill loved one, or your loved one may in fact be approaching their end of life in intensive care. The fact of the matter is that if your critically ill loved one is in one of the aforementioned difficult and challenging situations and is not doing so well, that the doctors will discuss your critically ill loved one's case, their diagnosis, their prognosis, behind closed doors, and once they've made up their mind that they think it's quote-unquote in the best interest for your critically ill loved one to withdraw treatment, to limit treatment, or to issue a DNR, which stands for Do Not Resuscitate Order, or an NFR, which stands for Not for Resuscitation Order, that they want to inform you in a formal family meeting. That sets the tone from the start of those meetings. The intensive care team usually has their mainly hidden agenda mapped out from the start for such a family meeting with you and your family. The intensive care team has decided that your critically ill loved one is doomed, that they won't improve, and also they don't want to invest any more physical as well as emotional resources to get your critically ill loved one out of intensive care alive. The intensive care team also makes those decisions knowing that 99% of the families of critically ill patients in intensive care won't question their decisions, because those families don't make informed decisions, don't get peace of mind, don't have control, don't have power, and don't have any influence whatsoever. Therefore, 99% of the time, it's easy for the intensive care team to call a family meeting, get their agenda on the table, and shrewdly, quote-unquote, sell you and your family of what may be, and I stress maybe, quote unquote, in the best interest for your critically ill loved one. Again, more often than not, family meetings are held in intensive care to deliver the bad news, to tell family what might be, quote unquote, in the best interest for their critically ill loved one, and most of the time it's that a withdrawal of treatment, a limitation of treatment, and or a DNR, do not resuscitate order, or an NFR, not for resuscitation order, might be, quote unquote, in the best interest for your critically ill loved one. Again, most families of critically ill patients in intensive care are so taken aback by this that they will be totally overwhelmed by their emotions, and it often leaves them speechless, surprised, angry, and even bitter. Therefore, you and your family need to be prepared for those family meetings. If you are not prepared for those family meetings, you are falling into the 99% category of families of critically ill patients in intensive care who don't make informed decisions, don't have peace of mind, don't have control, don't have power, and don't have any influence. Family meetings in intensive care are often life or death meetings, and yet most families in intensive care are unprepared and tend to trust blindly, and are therefore negatively surprised during family meetings. After a family meeting is held, it's often too late. Decisions have been made, documents have been signed, and I have seen many patients die within hours after a family meeting has been held, because life-sustaining treatment has been withdrawn and withheld, and therefore patients die without this crucial life-sustaining treatment. Now, I'm not saying here that I can save your critically ill loved one's life. What I am, however, saying is that whenever you and your family are called to a formal family meeting with the intensive care team, you and your family need to have done your research, and you need to be prepared. Full stop. Here are the things that are most important for you and your family to pay attention to before, during, and after a family meeting with the intensive care team. Number 1, you need to know and understand what questions to ask. Number 2, you need to know and understand that what you see is not always what you get in intensive care. Number 3, you need to know and understand that there are many moving parts in intensive care, especially behind the scenes, that impact on how the intensive care team positions your critically ill loved ones, diagnosis, their prognosis, their care, and their treatment. Number 4, you need to know and understand that you and your family need to have strong mental positioning during, before, and after those meetings. And you need to understand how you need to position your critically ill loved ones, diagnosis, their prognosis, their care, and their treatment. You also, during those family meetings, the intensive care team thinks, what? Because they think they are dealing with another family who doesn't know or understand a simple thing about intensive care. And I'm just quickly throwing in here, if you need to know more about family meetings in intensive care, I have created an entire resource just dedicated to family meetings. So you can check out, follow this ultimate 6-step guide for family meetings with the intensive care team that gets you to make informed decisions, get peace of mind, control, power, and influence fast. So go back to our website and check out this resource, and you find it under the section of ebooks, or you find it underneath this video in the written version of this blog. There's a link. Okay, carrying on. You need to know and understand that during those family meetings, the intensive care team is the master of playing with your emotions during those family meetings, and that most of the time families are feeling actually grateful for everything that has been done for their loved one to this point, without having perspective on the overall situation and the bigger picture. It's therefore easy for the intensive care team to shrewdly, quote unquote, sell you on what they want. And here's the thing, very important, and therefore they can take advantage during your moments of gratitude. This is really important to understand. You also need to know and understand that there are ways how you can strongly position your critically ill loved one's diagnosis, their prognosis, as well as their care and treatment during a family meeting, so that you have leverage and bargaining power. Your job, as always, is to stay on high alert. Get as much information about intensive care as you can. Keep looking at the power dynamics in intensive care, learn about them, and turn things upside down. This is the only way that you can get negotiation power and leverage in family meetings with the intensive care team. So, how can you become the best advocate for your critically ill loved one, make informed decisions, get peace of mind, control, power and influence quickly whilst your loved one is critically ill in intensive care? You get to that all-important feeling of making informed decisions, get peace of mind, control, power and influence when you download your free Instant Impact Report now by entering your email below. In your free Instant Impact Report, you learn quickly how to make informed decisions, get peace of mind, real power and real control, and how you can influence decision making fast once your loved one is critically ill in intensive care. Your free Instant Impact Report gives you in-depth insight that you must know whilst your loved one is critically ill or is even dying in intensive care. Sign up and download your free Instant Impact Report now by entering your email below. In your free Instant Impact Report, you learn how to speak the secret intensive care language so that the doctors and the nurses know straight away that you are an insider and that you know and understand what's really happening in intensive care. In your free report, you will also discover how to ask the doctors and the nurses the right questions. Discover the many competing interests in intensive care and how critically ill loved one's treatment may depend on those competing interests. How to eliminate fear, frustration, stress, struggle and vulnerability even if your loved one is dying. You get 5 mind-blowing tips and strategies helping you to get on the right path to making informed decisions, get peace of mind, control, power and influence in your situation. You'll get real-world examples that you can easily adapt to your critically ill loved one's situation. How to stop being intimidated by the intensive care team and how you will be seen as equals. You'll get crucial behind-the-scenes insight so that you know and understand what's really happening in intensive care and how you need to manage doctors and nurses in intensive care, and it's not what you think. Thank you for tuning into this week's blog, and I'll see you again next week in another update. Make sure you also check out our Your Questions Answered section, where I answer all of your questions, or simply send me an email to support@intensivecarehotline.com with your questions, or you can call me, find international phone numbers on our contacts tab. Also check out our ebook section, where you get more ebooks, videos and audio recordings, and where you can also get one-on-one counseling with me via Skype or over the phone and via email by clicking on the email and phone counseling tabs on the top of the website. This is Patrick Hutzel from IntensiveGehotland.com, and I'll see you again next week in another update.